So today we're going to be talking about seller closing costs. And you may be asking yourself, what? Yeah, I have closing costs as a seller? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. A lot of times people are always focused on, buyers' closing costs, and sellers oftentimes don't realize the amount of money that's going to come out of their proceeds as far as closing. So I have a lot of sellers, when we go over this, they're kind of shocked. So what are these closing costs? And Dan, feel free to chime in on any of this if you'd like, okay? Because I know
Sure.
you deal with a lot of our sellers actually end up working with you to purchase a home anyways. And one of the closing costs, which we'll get into, is actually the buyer's closing costs that some sellers take over. So I think you'd be able to give some good input there. But let's just give you a real world example. I'm going to do the Dan Giroux numbers thing, and we're going to talk about some simple numbers here, but let's go over this. Let's say that we have a $300,000 house that we're going to sell. We're going to give you a real world example of what you would get from selling a $300,000 house. Now, the what you may pull in may vary, okay? Full disclosure, it may vary, but we're going to give you kind of an idea, a pretty good idea. All right, so $300,000 house. In the state of Rhode Island, they charge tax stamps, transfer stamps. And if Teresa Santoro was on air with us today, she'd be able to tell us exactly where those tax stamps go to. I don't know where they go to, but the tax rate is $4.60 per 1,000 sold. Okay, so on a $300,000 house, you would just do 300 times $4.60, and you'd get $1,380. Now, that's $1,380 in tax stamps that you'd be paying to the state, which comes off of the top. Okay. All right. So then you also have attorney fees. You need an attorney to draw up a deed for you. You need an attorney to check out your paperwork, to go through all of this. And I've seen prices ranging from $500 to $1,200. Now, $1,200 is on the extreme high side. I think you could do better than that, so you should $500, $750, somewhere around there. Let's just use $750 for that attorney figure. Again, that's to drop the deed, review your paperwork, and be at the closing to represent you, the seller. So when selling a home, you've got to also remember this. Section 10, if it's a single family home, Section 10 on the purchase and sales agreement is taxes, adjustments, and other assessments. Now in there, under Section C, under the assessments section, okay, it says the seller shall pay the balance of the assessment in full or acknowledge that there is no assessment, or underneath that, the buyer shall pay the balance of the assessment in full. Now, keep in mind, the buyer's agent normally fills out the purchase and sales agreement, and they almost always check off the seller shall pay the balance, okay? The only times when I've seen them check off the buyer shall pay the balance is either A, if they've asked and know that there's no assessment on there, or B, if we're in like a bid war type of situation. Okay, so when they have that checked off, if you have a sewer assessment, you're paying that entire balance in full. Okay, but we're not going to put those numbers on this. I just wanted to give you that quick tip. Okay, so to kind of recap here, $300,000, you've got $1,380 in tax stamps. You have $750 being minus for attorney fees. You've got $30, which is going to go to the local town or city for smoke and fire alarms. Now, they come on down. The fire marshal comes down to your house and checks the smoke and fire alarms and ensures that they are working and under 10 years of age. Now, there's a bunch of stipulations about, the year of your home and if they have to be hardwired, whatnot. We're not going to get into that, okay? But if those smoke alarms need to be replaced, okay, you're probably looking at, depending on the size of your house, between, $150 and $300 or so, okay? So we'll even add that. We'll add $250 on this as well. Let's just say you have to replace those. And then you also have closing cost credits. Okay, so a lot of times now buyers will come in and they will ask the sellers to pay for their closing costs. Basically, in essence, what they're doing is they're wrapping the closing costs into their mortgage so that they don't have to take money out of their pocket. So on a $300,000 house, you're probably looking at about $5,000, maybe $6,000 in closing costs. So we're going to put down, what do you say, Dan, about $5,000?
Yeah, normally that seems to be the standard nowadays. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. $5,000, and then let's not forget, obviously, your hardworking agents. They've got to get paid for their services. So we see, commissions anywhere from 5% to 7%. Let's just go right in the middle there at 6%, and let's just say 6% of $300,000 is $18,000. Now we have a pretty good idea of what you're going to net if you sold a $300,000 house. Okay, so, and again, full disclosure, there might be a couple costs in here like taxes or some other adjustments, some sewer adjustment or whatnot that we don't have labeled here, but this is just the basics. Okay, so $300,000 house, you're going to be paying $1,380 of tax stamps to the state of Rhode Island. You're going to be paying about $750 to a law firm to prepare your deed and to also review your seller documents and everything at the closing. They should be there with you at the closing. There's $18,000 in real estate commissions that are paid out to your listing agent and to the buyer's agent. If one, there's a $30 fee to your local town or city, and that's the charge that they cost to go test and approve your smoke and carbon detectors. And if you have to replace those smoke and carbon detectors, you're looking at about $250 to have somebody go in there and do it. And let's say the buyers want you to pay for their closing costs. So they're going to come in and charge you ask you to pay about $5,000, and that covers their, mortgage brokerage fees. It covers their attorney fees and some money in escrow. You don't have to pay this, but I threw this in here just so you'd get a good idea of what's going on out there. And that leaves you with $274,590. So you can figure you will net on a $300,000 home between $275 and $280.